Yeah. Okay. Before I start reading any other witnesses, can you get Colonel CNA for you, please? Actually, I'll give you the updated exhibit list. The index, right? Yeah. Now do it quickly. Yeah, print it at one time, I'll give you guys. Do you want me to print this out or you should print it at the office?
What?
The index page, the one I'm going to update.
No.
I'm going to update now. Other than that, she's done that. It's only 3 more weeks.
I just want to see something for the stats quickly. Is we going to fill in 4 hours?
Yeah, but you look at
You
it.
must just remember.
Yeah.
You need to, if you don't, you need to fill
You
in.
must look at all. Colonel, I'm just going to ask the report exclusion quickly, and then I'll continue with the witness, okay?
For tomorrow.
Yeah, for tomorrow.
You didn't eat tomorrow?
Yeah? Never leave anybody.
Oh, can you just ask if you can leave for me?
You're going to be busy here for a while.
Can I ask you one question?
Yes, sir.
The Colonel Smith that you released, is he with Colonel Smith that accompanied him and the person?
No, different person.
So he's a different person. That's Warrant Officer Smith.
Actually, no office in Gamachol.
He is a police.
Yeah.
2 different people completely.
Oh, are you talking about the one that's...
I also was on the same impression. I clarified it.
Did you make mistakes with all the names anyway?
It's one. One is warrant officer, the photo album, and the one that he was talking was colonel. Thank you.
Lawrence,
Yeah.
please send me possible dates for the other one, please.
Policy.
Don't we discuss this today?
Eh,
You said you want to be
policy
present.
lang ako.
You don't be present. Can I deal with it myself?
Look here, what is it?
Yeah. What did you go? I don't know.
Yes, the empty can. Lying.
There's an empty can.
It's empty.
Not going to fight.
I'm telling you what I'm seeing.
So then I can set the date on this one. It's fine. Okay, cool.
That's all, you know, that's
I thought we set up a meeting with an attorney next week, Tuesday, Wednesday.
No,
You on Friday for his other matter. Maybe this will be a good day for his other attorney coming to on Friday morning. Yeah. Another case got postponed for April. There we are.
Be seated.
Thank you. Just before I proceed with this witness,
Just one moment. Mr. Malema as well as Mr. Ndlozi may be seated.
just before I proceed with the continuation with the witness, Your Worship, may I please request to warn retired Colonel Sianego for tomorrow?
So we're only proceeding with one more witness.
This
The witness before court.
I cannot foresee us finishing today.
Thank you, sir. Can you indicate to the court your full names and surname? Charles. Or just before I do, Mr. Oudis, I believe there's no objection from the defense side.
Definitely not, Your Worship.
Thank you. Mr. Sianego, the court is thanking you for your patience and presence here today. We will not get to a stage where you will be testifying today, so the court is going to warn you to appear tomorrow morning, which is on the 10th of March 2021 in court number 13. You need to be present. If you fail to be present, or if you fail to be present, the court will have to authorize the warrant for your arrest. You understand, sir? You are then excused from the proceedings of today. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Your Worship. And just for record purposes, Your Worship, the other witness, Detective Warrant Officer Smith, Jacques Smith, Your Worship, I have spoken to Advocate Holders about it. Our witness is in a wheelchair and travels from Pretoria. And because of the lateness of the hour, they'll sit in the N1 traffic. Your Worship, I've asked him to be here tomorrow morning as well.
As well. So this?
Your Worship, I confirm that as well. They were excused with my consent for what it's worth, Your Worship, but I don't envisage us getting to those witnesses today, so I think it is very fair.
Thank you. Court will duly note so. Anything else, Mr. Baba?
That's all, Your Worship. No leave of the court. May I continue then, Your Worship?
Just one moment. Let the court just swear in the witness. Thank you, sir. Can you indicate to the court your full names and surname?
Die volle naam en van?
James Broncos.
Mr. Broncos, you're still under oath. You have not discussed your evidence with anyone. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you. Thank you, then, Mr. Baba. You may continue.
Sir, just before the adjournment, we were talking about the memory stick, where you indicated to the court that you're not aware of the content on the memory stick. Is that correct?
Voordat vandaag het ons oor die geheugstokkie gepraat, nie? Wanneer ek sê, meneer, wat is die antwoord van hy stokkie? Is dat correct?
Hierachter is die een wat vir my gewys is, die rooi een.
You worship, is it the red one that was shown to me?
That's correct, sir, the one that I showed you in court.
That is correct. Die een wat gewys is na my. Yes?
Now, sir, before I get to the content itself, can you recall that how many videos were on your disk?
Kan meneer onthou hoeveel video's op die disk was?
On the memory stick?
Op die geheugstokkie?
Hierachter, ja, daar was twee gewees, een baie kort ene en dan die langer ene waarvan ek gewerk het.
Yes, your worship, there were two, the short one and the long one that I worked from.
Dis ook het ontvang het van meneer Klingberg.
That is one that I received from Mr. Tindberg.
And just for record purposes, sir, is it correct that this particular video only deals with one specific camera?
Is it correct dat die video net deel met een camera, een specifieke camera?
Dis correct, hierachter.
That is correct.
For record purposes, can you just inform the court which camera it is?
Wat 'n camera is dit, meneer? Kan meneer hier of inlig en sê wat een is dit?
Hierachter, ek dink dis kanaal 11 as ek reg kan onthou.
Sê meneer kanaal 11. Channel 11, Your Worship, if I remember well.
Okay, now, so just for record purposes, can you see the screen there?
Wanneer is skerm sien daar so?
Ja.
Yes.
This is the first video. Can you see the time here?
Wanneer die tyd sien daar so?
Or would you like to come closer?
Meneer nader, 'n bietjie nader gaan.
Dit is die lapse time. Ja, dit is die nou.
Can I just come a bit closer?
You may do
Please come
so.
here so you can record it on here, sir. I'll just-
Bishop, the witness can have my microphone for ease of self-representation.
Thank you. Mr. Ronkus, just go to that microphone.
Dis korrek hier daar kan die tyd sien.
Yes, Your Worship, it's correct. I can see the time.
For record purposes, can you just tell the court what time is on there?
Kan meneer sê wat die tyd is hy?
Huidiglik 15:44.
Ek het nie gehoor meneer.
Huidiglik 15:44.
Currently 15:44.
Okay, and can you see this total here?
Kan meneer die totaal sien daar?
Ja, 01:17 so.
01:17.
Now I want to go to the next video, sir. Sorry. Can you see the time here, sir?
Kan meneer die tyd sien daar?
12:46.
12:46.
Bo is dit 15:45.
And on top it's 15:44. 45 of 44?
45.
45.
thank
It's
you, sir.
15:45, Your Worship.
Can you go back to the box, please? On that memory stick, sir, were there only these two videos?
Op die geheue stokkie nie, was dit net die twee video's?
Dis al.
Yeah, that's all.
Okay. I just want to play the second video for you.
Gaan die
First,
tweede
the long
video
one.
speel? Die lang enetjie.
Is that the video marked gate camera?
Is dit die video wat gemerk as gate camera? That is correct.
Now, sir, just for purposes of record, I just want you to confirm whether this is the video that you actually went through. If it's not, can you just indicate to the court, please?
Die antwoord sê meneer moet bevestig as dit die video wat meneer deurgegaan het, as dit nie is dan meneer Andre aan hoof.
Dis die korrekte een.
Is the correct one?
Thank you, Your Worship. For the record purposes, Your Worship, I just want to prove the content of the video, which I have done, as far as the video that this witness has seen. Thank you, Your Worship. Say there's no further questions for the witness.
Thank you. Mr. Ouders.
Thank you, Bishop. Colonel, do you confirm that you've made two statements in relation to this matter?
Nou kan u bevestig dat u twee verklaringen gemaakt hebt in verband met die geleentheid.
Dis korrek hier waar.
That is correct, Your Worship.
And I want to put to you up front, Colonel, that in neither of those two statements did you ever mention the term convoy. Do you agree with me?
Die advocaat sê in al twee verklaringen zit meneer geen daar is geen plek waar meneer noem van die convoy nie.
Dis moontlik hier waar.
It is possible, Your Worship.
We'll go through them in due course, but I'll put it to you as a fact.
Die advocaat stel het aan u as 'n feit dat dit hier is.
And I want to go one step further, and maybe we can cut to the chase in this one, that even as you stand here today, you're not sure whether the accused vehicle was secured for this ceremony at the Memorial Park.
Soos meneer staan vandag, kan meneer nie met bevestiging sê nie of meneer weet of die voertuig toestemming gekry het om aan te wees by Memorial Park.
Dis korrek hier waar.
That is correct, Your Worship.
So you've been led beyond your statements by Mr. Baba on issues that relate to your experience in the field, but it doesn't pertain specifically to this incident. Do you agree with me?
Advocaat sê dat die aanklaer u geleid het met die opleiding en die ondervinding met die
Dis
weer,
korrek.
maar dat nie aangaande hierdie saak nie.
Dis
Correct.
Dis korrek hier waar.
That is correct, Your Worship.
So let's try, if I may, because we're dealing with this incident, restrict ourselves to the 14th of April 2018. Do you understand?
Gaan praat net van die 14 April 2018 meneer. Verstaan nie?
Right. On the 14th of April 2018, you were present at VOC, is that correct?
Meneer was teenwoordig op die 14 April 2018 by VOC.
Dis korrek, Julle Afgevaardigde.
That is correct, Your Worship.
You never had a list of dignitaries who were entitled to attend the burial ceremony. Do you agree with me?
Meneer het nie 'n lys gehad nie van die dignitaries wat met die begrafenis bygewoon het.
Dis korrek.
That is correct, Your Worship.
Similarly, you had no list of accredited or authorized vehicles that were entitled to enter into the ceremony. Do you agree with me?
Sel het meneer ook 'n lys gehad nie van voertuie wat akkreditasie gehad het om in te gaan nie.
Dis korrek.
That is correct, Your Worship.
In fact, you cannot positively testify whether any of those two lists ever existed. Do you agree?
Meneer kan nie positief getuig en sê of enige van die twee lyse bestaan het nie.
Ek het geen so lys gesien nie, dis korrek.
I didn't see any list as such, Your Worship.
But you had to have had briefing instructions or standing orders of procedure for the day. Do you agree with me?
Meneer het 'n briefing order gehad op wat gaan gebeur die dag, is dit so?
Dis korrek, ons het 'n briefie gekry.
Yes, that is correct. We got a briefing, Your Worship.
And you had to have been aware of how the procession would take place, as my learned friend led you from the stadium, Orlando Stadium, coming across to Memorial Park for the burial. Do you agree with that?
Meneer het bewys, meneer was bewus hoe die prosesie gaan lei van die stadium af
Nee.
na die Memorial Park.
Nee, Julle Afgevaardigde, ons het nie daai inligting gehad nie.
No, Your Worship, you do not have that information.
You didn't even have that information.
Nee.
Meneer het nie daai inligting gehad nie.
So
No.
do you know whether the roads or the route from the stadium to the cemetery was open to the public or not?
Weet meneer of die pad oop was vir die publiek van die stadium af na die begrafenispark?
Nee, ons was nie deel van die beplanning nie, Julle Afgevaardigde, so ek sal nie kennis dra daarvan.
Your Worship, we were not part of the planning, so I would not have any knowledge of that.
Did you know who were the people that were identified to speak at the ceremony at the stadium?
Weet meneer wie die persone of die mense was wie geïdentifiseer was wat gepraat het by die stadium?
Ons het geen lys gekry nie, Julle Afgevaardigde.
We did not get a list, Your Worship.
Ons het wel die verrigtinge op die TV dopgehou.
Your Worship, we were watching what was happening there on the TV.
Now, you corrected my learned friend when he said that this was a state funeral. You said it wasn't a state funeral, it was an official funeral. Is that correct?
Meneer het die aanklaer gekorrek toe hy sê dat dat 'n staats begrafenis daar toe sê dit was 'n amptelike begrafenis.
Dis hoe ek het verstaan het, Julle Afgevaardigde.
That's how I understood it, Your Worship.
And what I want to put to you, sir, and I can show you, is that there was an official program for this funeral service. Do you have any comment?
Die advokaat stel aan meneer en sê dat 'n amptelike program was vir die begrafenis. Het meneer enige comment oor dit?
Julle Afgevaardigde, ek sal aanneem dat daar een moes gewees het, maar ek het nie een gesien nie.
Your Worship, I would take it that there was one, but I didn't see one.
Your Worship, it's Exhibit A before this honourable court. What I want to put to you, Colonel, is on the cover of that program, it refers to this funeral service as being, and I quote, and I can hand it to you as well, it says Special Official Funeral Service for
Dus
Winnie Madikizela Mandela.
dit is 'n bewysstuk in hof, né? Dit is bewysstuk A.
Okay.
So
Inspector?
that's termed, thank you, Worship. If you can hand it to the witness, just to explain, Your Worship. Thank you. You have never seen this before.
Het meneer het nooit gesien voorheen nie?
Nee, ek het dit nie gesien, Julle Afgevaardigde.
I didn't see it, Your Worship.
Now you'll see that it's headed on the cover page, Special Official Funeral Service. You agree with that?
Kan meneer sien daarso?
Ja.
Yes, I can see it.
And that's what you were referring to, that it was an official funeral, not a state funeral. Do you agree
Dit is
with
wat meneer bedoel dat dit 'n offisiële begrafenis was, nie 'n amptelike begrafenis nie.
Dis korrek, Julle Afgevaardigde.
That is correct, Your Worship.
the different types being a state funeral as opposed to a special official funeral have different protocols. Do you agree with me?
Daar is verschillende protocollen wat met gevolgd wordt als het een staatsbegrafenis is en of
Dat is
begrafenis.
correct, maar ek is nie bewus van wat daai protokolle presies is nie.
Yes, Your Worship, it is so, but I'm not sure if the protocol is precise.
Now, what I want to put you, and you please, you feel free to check if you don't, but even if you turn to the 6th page of this, you'll see there's a funeral program. So it hasn't been put to you before. Part 1 of the program began at the home with the family valedictory service.
Die dienst het bij de huis begin die eerste.
At 6:30 that morning. You've got no reason to dispute that, is that correct?
Meneer het geen reden met te ontkennen.
And then if you turn the page, you'll see part 2, which occurred at Orlando Stadium, started from 9 a.m. to 1300 hours, and it gives a list of the dignitaries and family members that were called upon to speak. Do you agree with me?
Stem meneer saam?
Is reg?
Yes.
And if you turn the page, item number 17 is a tribute by Mr. Julius Malema. Would you confirm that?
Dis korrek, ja.
Bevestig meneer het? Yes, I do.
Kan sien.
Meneer,
Now you'll see, if you look at the tribute.
Just one moment.
I was just indicating to the witness that he should not shake his head to just answer, Your Worship.
Thank
Because
you, I
he was-
have noticed that, thank you.
You are
But-
shaking
yes, but
his
the-
head in saying yes.
But
So I just,
you've been kind to him, you've been saying it, thank you. But I agree with every time that you've done it correctly. Really, you've done a phenomenal job, thank you.
Thank you.
So please, if you can indicate with your mouth, I know it's difficult, but everything is on tape, and the interpreter has been assisting you, but very, very accurately, I must say. And if you look at the tributes, you see the tribute number 17 was Julius Malema, but if you look one up from that, there's by the daughters, Ambassadors Anani Mandela, Dlamini, Ambassador Zinzi Mandela, and you'll see that most of the people listed here are either royalty, dignitaries, or family members. Would you agree with that?
stem meneer saam.
Dis korrek, Julle Afbare.
That is correct, Your Worship.
Now what I want to put you is that those were the so-called VIPs of this event. Would you agree with that?
Saam meneer saam stem as die advocaat stellen en u sê dat er was die VIP's van die event.
Julle Afbare, wat ek verstaan is 'n VIP kan dalk anders te wees as meneer of advokaat Hoede se interpretation, maar vir die doeleindes van die program verstaan ek wat hy bedoel as hy sê VIP's.
Your Worship, for the program, Your Worship, I understand when the advocate says that it's VIP's, Your Worship.
But if you turn the page, you'll see, I understand what you're saying, but if you turn the page, you'll see item 20's tribute by the ANC was delivered by Mr. Fakili in Balula. If you go down, you'll see to number 30, there's departure to the gravesite.
Sien meneer hè?
Ek sien dit korrek, Julle Afbare.
Yes, I see it correctly, Your Worship.
Then you'll see that the third part of this ceremony, it's part 3, is at the gravesite.
Die derde gedeelte van die ceremonie was by die begrafenis.
Ek sien dit, Julle Afbare.
Yes, I
it's-
see it, Your Worship.
And it says President Ramaphosa and family are seated at the gravesite, military procession, and then you have the entire proceeding of what will take place at the gravesite. Do you agree with me?
Stem meneer saam, sien meneer hè?
Ek sien dit, Julle Afbare.
I see it, Your Worship.
So what I want to put you, sir, and it's been placed on record by inter alia, the daughter of the deceased, Mr. Malema, accused number 1, was regarded as a family member of the deceased. Do you have any comments?
Die advocaat stel het aan u en het was ook op record geplaatst door die oorledene se dochter dat meneer Malema aangeskou was as 'n familielid. Het meneer enige iets te sê oor dit?
Geen kommentaar nie, Julle Afbare.
No comment, Your Worship.
Now, if you'll keep that file before you, because I'm going to try to do it in some type of chronology here. That was Exhibit A. The next document in front of you will see is marked Exhibit B,
So as kyk na bewysstuk B,
which is the first statement by Colonel Fenter. It's
Dis hier die
easier to
verklaring.
follow. You'll see it comprises of 2 pages, but then there's a typewritten version of it.
dis 'n getikte weergawe van die
But
verklaring.
if we can start with the one with B, and you'll turn to the second page. It's marked A1 on the right-hand side.
Sien meneer hè?
Ja.
I do see it, yes.
Okay, and you'll see on the second page, I'm going to quote to you from the 4th line. It starts there, That time I was trying to contact the VOC, Venue Operations Center, to verify if I can allow them inside. You see that?
Sien meneer Ryan?
Ek
Right.
sien dit hier agbaar.
I see it, Your Worship.
Now, if that's the version of Mr. Fenter, Colonel Fenter, that he had to contact the VOC to verify if he can allow these people inside. There wasn't a set protocol, as you've testified, that you had to be a member of a convoy to get into the cemetery. Do you agree with me?
Stem meneer saam as kolonel Venter gesê dat hy die VOC moet gekontak het om te hoor kan hy die persone toestemming gee om in te gaan. Dan meen daar was nie 'n protokol soos meneer gesê het nie dat die konvoy hulle moet in die konvoy as hulle moet inry dan moet hulle saam met die konvoy inry.
Hier agbaar, ja, hulle moes deel gewees het van die konvooi om toegang te kry tot die sterede site.
Your Worship, they had to be part of the convoy to get entry to the sterile site.
You haven't answered the question, but I'm going to move on because I'm going to be as patient as I can. Do you agree that General Zulu was the superior officer to the colonel at the gate? So you had Colonel Fenter, but his senior officer was General Zulu. Do you agree with that?
Stem meneer saam dat generaal Zulu die hoof was van kolonel Venter wat breek was.
In terme van rang, hier agbaar verseker was hy sy senior gewees.
Ek het nie gehoor wat meneer?
In terme van rang,
Ja.
rank,
Ja.
was hy sy senior gewees. Ja.
Yes, Your Worship, in terms of
Rank.
rank, he was his senior, Your Worship.
She, it's a she. I
He's
know
senior.
it's difficult for you, that's, I'm just correcting for the record. But if you look at paragraph 5 then of the very same page, this is on the colonel's own statement. He says, then General Zulu came and informed me that it is fine, they can get inside the cemetery. They then went inside.
Ek kan meneer sien dat hy sê dat generaal Zulu gekom het en gesê dat dit is korrek, hulle kan ingaan in die
You
begrafplaas.
see that?
Ek sien dit hier agbaar.
I see it, Your Worship.
Okay. So now we're trying to establish what happened nearly, let's work out the dates, it's a few years back, 2018, it's nearly 3 years ago, and you see here that first of all he wanted to contact the VOC, and second of all he was told by General Zulu that they could go inside. Do you
Sien
agree with
meneer.
that?
Ek het al twee waargeneem hier agbaar.
Your Worship, I'm aware, I saw both of it.
And nobody, well, definitely not the colonel, made any mention of being part of or not part of a convoy on what you've read. Do you agree with me?
Wat meneer gelees het daar. Albei van hulle, ook nie die kolonel het genoem dat dat hulle deel van 'n konvoy was nie. Stem meneer saam?
Dis korrek.
It is correct, Your Worship.
If you'll turn to Exhibit C, the next document, sir.
Verwys ek sien.
It's a typed sworn affidavit by Lieutenant Colonel Fenter, and you'll
Dis
see
getipte
paragraph 2.
van-
Going to read you from the middle of the third line. I was instructed by my general to allow the people who were carrying cards into the family, also the Mandela family, the president of the country and some cabinet ministers into the cemetery. Do you see
Your Worship,
that?
just hold. Advocate is still turning,
I
sorry.
beg your pardon.
Sorry, Your
Sorry,
Worship.
sorry.
Sorry, Your
Okay,
Worship.
The next
Exhibit C,
Bewys ek sien.
Okay, so dis een.
paragraph 2.
Sien meneer, dit is 'n getipte verklaring van
Ja,
Luitenant
ja,
Kolonel
dit is een
Venter.
terug, ja.
Okay.
Do you have it?
Ja.
Right, paragraph 2,
Paragraaf 2, sien
in the
meneer.
middle of the third line.
Yes.
Die middel van
I
die
was
derde lyn.
instructed by my general to allow the people who were carrying cards into the family, also the Mandela family, the president of the country and some cabinet ministers into the cemetery.
Sien meneer.
Ek sien dit hier agbaar.
I see it, Your Worship.
You'll see in paragraph 3, just out of interest, he only noticed 3 black males inside the vehicle. But in paragraph 4, I then explained to the people at the vehicle that they are not allowed to get inside the cemetery according to the instructions I received.
Sien
You see
meneer.
that?
Ek sien dit hier agbaar.
Did
See it, Your
you
Worship.
or anybody known to you give this colonel that instruction not to allow these people into the cemetery?
Meneer of enige iemand wat kennend as meneer het die kolonel instruksies gegee dat hulle die mense moet toelaat in die begrafplaas nie.
Verseker die hier agbaar, ek het geen so instruksie gegee nie.
Certainly not, Your Worship. I didn't give such an instruction.
And you'll see that there's mention again at the foot of paragraph 4.
En enige
That time I was trying to contact the VOC, Venue Operations Center, to verify if I can allow them inside. You see that?
sien meneer Ryan?
Ek sien dit, Julle Agbare.
I see it, Your Worship.
Okay. And then in paragraph 5, there's the same repetition. Then General Zulu came and informed me that it is fine. They can get inside the cemetery. They then went inside.
Sien meneer Ryan?
Ek sien dit, Julle Agbare.
I see it, Your Worship.
Right. If you'll turn to Exhibit D,
Verwystuk D.
Ja.
Yes.
it's the third statement by Colonel Venter, and I'm going
Was die
to
derde verklaring?
direct your attention to paragraph 5, which is headed Access Control. Do you have that?
Ek sien dit, Julle Agbare.
I see it, Your Worship.
Right, and he says here, 5.1, I believe it relevant to give a brief explanation as to how the Police Planning Committee had prepared for access control to the cemetery as requested by the family. You see that?
Sien meneer Ryan? Yes, I see it, Your
In
Worship.
other words, and I need to put this to you, the protocol derived from the family to the police and then was implemented by the police. Do you agree with
Verstaan
that?
meneer die vraag?
Ek verstaan die vraag, Julle Agbare, maar op die einde van die dag, sekuriteit word en bly die responsibility of die verantwoordelikheid van die staat. Want ons het nie die familie daar nie, ons het baie ander staatshoofde, ons het die kabinet daar, ons het weet MEC, ons het baie VIP's daar, so dit bly die verantwoordelikheid van die staat.
Your Worship,
En-
at the end of the day, just want to mention that security stays the responsibility of the state. We don't only have the family there, we have a lot of state officials, we have dignitaries, we have VIPs there, Your Worship. You can voortgaan.
Ek was self betrokke gewees by die beplanning van die ontslaapte meneer Nelson of president Nelson Mandela. So ek dra kennis van hoe die familie hulle wishes, as ek dit so kan sê, voorsit.
Your Worship, I was part of the planning of the funeral of Mr. Nelson Mandela, and I know how the family put their wishes forward.
So dit moet basies discussion wees of 'n gesels tussen die familie en die mense wat verantwoordelik is vir sekuriteit, maar ultimately bly daai verantwoordelikheid die mense wat die sekuriteit doen.
Your Worship, it has to be basically be a discussion amongst the family and the people that is responsible for security, but at the end of the day, it is a responsibility of the security.
And you'll see if you turn the page then to 5.2.
Kyk na punt 5.2.
Daai dagbring.
It
Yes,
says,
Amir.
I received instructions on the day prior to the incident regarding access to the cemetery, to wit, that no vehicles other than those transporting the immediate family and the president were to be allowed into the cemetery to a designated area. See
Sien meneer,
that?
hè?
Ek sien dit hier
I see it, Your Worship.
There's no mention there of special accreditation of vehicles and no mention of a convoy. Do you agree with me?
Stem meneer saam.
Stem saam met
I do agree, Your Worship.
What he says in 5.3 is the above instructions were later extended to include the vehicles of the Deputy President, ministers and invited heads of state.
Sien meneer,
Ek
hy?
sien dit hier
I see it, Your
So
Worship.
it changed. Do you agree with me? It went from the immediate family and the president. It was extended to include the Deputy President, ministers and invited heads of state.
Sien meneer, hè?
Ek sien dit hier
And
I see
when
it, Your Worship.
and when I say it was extended, I mean the permission for vehicles to enter. Do you agree with me?
Stem meneer saam as hy sê dit was extended, dit was vir toestemming dat die voertuie moet ingaan.
Dis korrek.
That is correct, Your Worship.
Then we turn to 5.4, and this is the crux of this statement. It says these vehicles all had permits allocated to them for purposes of identifying them and to grant them access to the designated area.
Ek sien dit hier
I see it, Your Worship.
Is that a normal protocol that the vehicles that are going to be allowed in access to the designated area have a permit allocated to them?
Was dit gewone protokol wat voorkom?
Ja.
Yes, Your Worship.
Eeraagbare, as ek kan verduidelik,
Your Worship, if I can explain,
wanneer voertuie geakkrediteer word by die remote search park,
Your Worship, when vehicles are accredited at the remote search park,
of watter plek ook al geïdentifiseer is as 'n plek waar die sekuriteitsmeasures geïmplementeer word,
and whichever place is recognized as a place where security measures will be implemented,
daai plek sal dan 'n merk, 'n identifikasiemerk of dit 'n sticker is en of dit 'n vehicle access pass is soos ons dit noem.
Your worship, that place will have an identification sticker or what am I
Or a permit.
a
Dis 'n
permit. Yeah.
En dit registreer teenoor 'n registrasienommer.
And it registers against registration number.
Dis die normale praktyk.
That is a normal protocol.
We're in absolute agreement, Colonel, but what I want to ask you is, in this case, do you know where that remote security process took place?
In hierdie saak.
Nee, eerlagbare, ek dra nie kennis nie.
No, your worship, I don't have any knowledge.
Ja.
Why not? If you were so involved, as was
Hoekom nie,
the
meneer?
previous colonel, that you didn't know where it took place.
Eerlagbare, die eerste ding is ons is nie ons het nie die privilegie van die operasionele plan nie. So ons kry nie die operasionele plan nie.
Your worship, we don't have the privilege of the operational plan. We don't get the operational plan.
So ek weet van die remote search park waar hy was en wat sy funksie was
I know about the remote search park and I know what the function of that is.
en of die voertuig in question, neem ek dit, dalk deur daai remote search park gegaan het, kan ek glad nie sê nie.
If the said motor vehicle in question went through that remote search park, I don't know, your worship.
And if
I
I
can't
put,
say.
if I put you that it did, in fact, go through such a procedure, you can't dispute it.
Meneer kan dit nie ontken as die advocaat stel aan u dat dit het deur haar gegaan.
Eerlagbare, ja.
Yes,
Dis
your worship.
moeilik want ek weet nie, ons het nie toegang gehad tot die operasionele plan nie.
It is difficult, your worship, because
As die
we didn't.
voertuig, ekskuus.
Let the interpreter just finish and then you can continue.
Yes, your worship. It is difficult. It is difficult, your worship, because we didn't have permission or access to the operational planning.
Ja.
You may continue then, sir.
So as die voertuig dan geakkrediteer was, moes die voertuig dan 'n voertuigpermit ook gehad het.
If the vehicle was accredited, then it had to have a vehicle permit also, your worship.
And if it had such a permit, it was allowed into the stadium and into the cemetery. Do you agree with me?
Stem meneer saam, as dit so 'n permit gehad het, dan was dit toestemming gegee om in die stadium te gaan en ook in die begrafplaas.
Op een kondisie sal ek saamstem, eerlagbare,
I would agree on one condition.
want die voertuig is nie onder ons beheer nie.
The vehicle is not under our control.
Wat ek daarmee bedoel is dat hy word nie bestuur deur 'n persoon van VIP Protection Services nie.
What I mean when I say that, your worship, that vehicle is not driven by one of the personnel from VIP Protection Services.
So as hy deur al die sekuriteits maatreëls gegaan het en veilig verklaar is en hy was deel van die konvooi gewees, sal ek saamstem met u.
Your worship, I would agree if the said vehicle went through all the security measures and it was part of the convoy.
Now I want to put you that that's exactly what happened here.
Ek kan stel dat dit is presies wat gebeur
Can
het.
you dispute that?
Kan meneer dit ontken of dispute?
En afwaar soos ek sê, ek het nie genoegsame inligting om dit te ontken nie.
Your worship, I don't have enough information to dispute it.
You know, Colonel, we've heard you answer the questions by my learned friend at length, giving lengthy explanations. You didn't have any difficulty to ask for more information. Now I'm asking you, based on what you've told the court, if the car was screened and it was part of the security convoy, is there any reason to believe it wasn't allowed into the cemetery?
Soos ek verduidelik het eerlagbare, ek het die principle, die protokol verduidelik hoe dit werk in terme van die konvooi. Waar die konvooi begin, waar die konvooi eindig.
Your worship, I explained the principle of the protocol, where the convoy starts and where the convoy ends.
Of as dit buitekant die konvooi is, dan kan hy voertuig ongelukkig, al het hy voertuigpermit, advokaat hoor, kan hy glad nie deel word as of gesien word as 'n voertuig wat gesekeerd is.
Your worship, if the vehicle is outside the convoy, even if that vehicle has a permit, then that vehicle cannot be seen to have a security permit.
Well, that's
security
a
was
bigger
it?
question, Colonel, I'm afraid to ask you. Then on what basis did General Zulu authorize it to go inside?
No, no vra die advokaat, hoekom met generaal Zulu dit toestemming gegee om in te gaan?
Ek kan ongelukkig nie daai vraag antwoord nie, advokaat hoor, dis miskien iets wat generaal Zulu sal kan antwoord.
Your worship, unfortunately, I can't answer that question. General Zulu will be the one that will answer that question, or will be able to answer that
Because
question.
what I want to put to you is that all the vehicles were security screened before the stadium, and then the procession was escorted. That's the normal protocol or procedure that's followed. Do you agree?
Dis 100% die normale protokol julle afvaar as jy deur die sekuriteitsmaatreëls gegaan het en jy's in 'n steriele area, moet jy deel word van daai konvooi om in een beweging van een steriele area na die tweede steriele area te gaan.
That is 100% your worship. If you went through the security protocol, then you are in a sterile area. You have to be in a convoy to get from to the next sterile area.
And the black motor vehicle, the Mercedes motor vehicle that was utilized by the EFF that day, was security screened at a particular place that I'm aware of, and permit was given to it, an accreditation. You can't dispute that.
Meneer kan dit nie ontken nie.
Ek kan dit nie ontken nie.
I can't
afvaar,
dispute
want
it, your
ek het nie
worship.
daai inligting.
I don't have that information.
And I'm told further that the vehicles, all the vehicles had to be accredited to go in and out of the stadium. That to go in and out of the stadium in the vehicle, you had to have this accreditation of the vehicle. Do you agree with that?
Julle afvaar, ek verstaan terug, ja. Julle afvaar, as jy die voertuig gesekuur is en hy deur die maatreëls gegaan en hy's binne in die stadion.
Your
En hy
worship,
verlaat die stadion. En hy
Just one
verlaat die
moment.
Your worship, if the vehicle went through all the security measures and it has been secured and it went into the stadium, but if it leaves the stadium,
voordat hierdie konvooi wat hulle dan nou opgestel het vertrek, moet daai voertuig weer teruggaan om geskreen te word, want dan weet ons nie, dan het ons nie geskiedenis van die voertuig.
Your worship, and before, if that vehicle leaves the stadium before the convoy has to leave or depart to get out of the stadium, then that vehicle has to go back to be screened again, because now we don't have a history of that vehicle.
But there's no, you don't know of that vehicle ever leaving the stadium unsupervised. Do you agree with me?
Meneer, weet nou wie hierdie voertuig die stadium verlaat het?
Ek sal nie daai kennis hê nie.
I wouldn't have that knowledge, your worship.
Because what I'm also told is that there was then a procession to the cemetery, and importantly, all the roads, including the N1 that were utilized for the procession, were closed to the public.
Die kon my toegegaan na die begrafplaas. Die N1 was ook toegemaak vir die enige publiek. Enige lede van die publiek kon dit nie gebruik nie.
Daai inligting rondom die operasionele plan het ek nie.
I don't have that information, your worship.
For completion purposes, let me tell you as well that the driver and the JMPD had collected that vehicle and Mr. Malema and his entourage from his home in Hyde Park. So there was a full escort from the time that the vehicle was screened and accredited to collect him, and then remained with him until they joined the procession at the stadium. That would fit in with the protocol as you know it. Do you agree with me?
Wat sê dat die bestuurder en die voertuig saam met die JMPD polisie na meneer Malema se huis toe gegaan om hom daar te gaan haal by die huis, en hulle was toe na die stadium toe, daar wat hulle by die sekurity daar wat hulle geskreen was en toe ingegaan het in die stadium. Nie enige kennis?
In elk geval, as ek reg verstaan het, hulle vandat hulle van die huis af vertrek het, eers gestop by die remote search park en toe in. Want dan sal my vraag wees, julle afbare, watter entiteit het daardie voertuig dan veilig verklaar?
Your worship, if they were traveling from home and they stopped at the remote research park, then I would ask which entity declared that vehicle safe.
Nee,
Meneer,
julle
so
afbare, ek glo nie die vertalingsreg.
herhaal weer, miskien het ek die laaste part net, ek het miskien nie reg gehoor nie.
It is in order. Just repeat your answer, sir.
So, ek kan dit miskien so verduidelik, julle afbare. JMPD het nie die verantwoordelikheid op die mandaat om 'n voertuig van meneer Malema byvoorbeeld te secuur en dan, as ek kan sê die Engelse woord rubber stamp en sê hy is nou secuur, ons kan hom nou in 'n, dit kan nie gebeur nie. Daai mandaat lê by Divisie Protection and Security Services, en soos ek verduidelik het voorheen, dit is die ESSPC, die Event Safety and Security Planning Committee, wat daai reëls maak in terme van hoe 'n voertuig veilig verklaar word.
Your worship, I don't believe that the JMPD can declare the vehicle
I never said the JMPD declared the vehicle. I said they escorted the vehicle after it had been accredited by the relevant security
Ek
authorities.
nie gesê dat hulle dit secured het nie, hulle dit geëskort.
Geëskort.
Ja.
Excuse Your Lordship, I verkeerd verstaan.
Your Worship, I'm sorry, I misunderstood.
May I approach the accused, Your Worship?
You may do so.
Another detail, thank you, Worship. Another detail is that this vehicle was actually parked in the basement at the stadium, whereas other officials had to park at another area and walk across. This vehicle went right into the basement of Orlando Stadium, of the Orlando Stadium. Do you have any comment?
Meneer, jy nou comment om te lewer oor hy?
Ja, Afvaarder, as ek reg verstaan, is dit die voertuig waarvan ons praat, voertuig van meneer Malema, wat dan geëskort is en reg onder die basement ingegaan.
Yes.
Okay.
Your Worship, if I understand correctly, Your Worship, it's the motor vehicle of Mr. Malema that was escorted and then went straight into the basement.
As dit die geval is, Here Afvaarder, is die protokol verseker nie gevolg nie.
Your Worship, if that is the case, the protocol wasn't followed.
Die voertuig moet gekleer word en wat ek praat van gekleer word, hy moet deur die sekuriteitsmaatreëls wat daar gestel is om die voertuig veilig te maak.
But
Voordat ek aangaan.
Your Worship, when I said it wasn't cleared, it has to go through the security protocol that was put there to be cleared so that it can go in and to be declared safe. Excuse me?
You're misunderstanding what I'm saying. It was security cleared to the extent that it even went with all the family vehicles into the basement of Orlando Stadium, is what I'm saying.
Meneer het nie reg verstaan nie.
Ja.
Die advokaat sê dat dit security dat dit gekleer was en dat somebody aan 'n voertuig van die familie daar aangegaan by die stadium, daar by die basement van die stadium.
Ek verstaan. Julle Afvaarder, nie ek verstaan.
I do understand, Your
Ek sal
Worship.
slegs daarop saamstem as daai voertuig deur die polisie se sekuriteitsmaatreëls gegaan het. Ja.
I would agree, Your Worship, if that vehicle went through the security measures of the police.
We're on the same page then. Then what he says here in 5.5 is the courts that are referred to in paragraph 2 of my first affidavit refers to the vehicle permits as mentioned above. Those are the permits that you refer to as well, is that correct?
Is dit die permitte wat meneer ook van praat? Wat hy dan noem? That is correct, Your Worship.
And then in 5.6 he says, I recall that all vehicles without the said permits were to be diverted to an alternative designated area for non-permit carrying vehicles.
Sien meneer?
Ek sien dit, Julle Afvaarder.
I see it, Your Worship.
So in other words, you have a division. Those with permits on this statement go in, those without permits can't go in. Do you agree with me? You read it the same way.
Ek verstaan dit ook so, Julle Afvaarder.
I understand it like that, Your Worship.
Then in paragraph 6.1, in the second last line, he says, I did not argue but told him that I would first need to get permission from the VOC for them to, venue operational center for them to enter. Do you see that?
Sien nou meneer, hè? Die paragraaf 6.
Paragraaf 16.
Ja. Hy sê dat hy nie geargumenteer het nie. Ek het vir hulle gesê jy moet eers toestemming van die VOC sentrum. Sien meneer Reilyn? Sien u dit nog nie?
Nee, ek lees dit, Julle Afvaarder. Ek het dit nie gelees nie.
Your Worship, I was still reading, sorry.
Yes.
Julle Afvaarder, die wolk kan nie hierdie toestemming gee nie. As die voertuig deur die normale prosedures gegaan het, ek sal dit weer herhaal. En die voertuig was deel van die konvooi gewees, absoluut stem ek saam, kon die voertuig ingegaan het.
Your Worship, the VOC can give this permission if the vehicle went through all the security protocols or measures, then the vehicle was part of the convoy.
Ja.
If you then turn E is the statement of the late Zinzi Mandela, but F is another statement from Colonel Venter.
As kyk bewystuk F. I'm just getting there. F, now ESF. Yeah.
Ja, goeie meneer.
And you'll see that the purpose of this statement is to answer 3 questions. You see this in paragraph 3.
Kan hier paragraaf 3 sien?
He says, I've been requested by the investigating officer to address the following 3 questions. 3.1, What was the nature of the vehicle accreditation that was given? 3.2, whether Mr. Malema or his vehicle had any credentials to enter the memorial park. 3.3, instructed me not to let Mr. Malema into the memorial park. Do you see that?
Sien meneer?
Ek sien dit hier
I see it, Your Worship.
Now he says, for nature of vehicle accreditation, paragraph 4. A vehicle accreditation refers to a decal or identifying physical mark that identifies that a particular vehicle has the right to enter a designated secure area. Do you agree so far?
Stem meneer saam met daai?
Slegs op een kondisie Eerlikwaarde.
Only on one condition, Your Worship.
Hierdie voertuig moet volgens hierdie definisie moet bestuur word deur 'n lid van VIP Protection Services.
So
And
you
on
say
one
it's
condition,
incorrect. Okay.
This vehicle has to be driven by one member of the VIP security services.
Ja,
He goes further, he says, a vehicle accreditation is issued to a specific vehicle, either for a specific day or for the duration of the event. Do you agree with that?
correct,
Stem meneer
Eerlikwaarde.
saam? Yes, that is correct.
The vehicle accreditation is typically valid for a singular event only.
Dis korrek Eerlikwaarde.
That is correct, Your Worship.
Features typically include the event name, event logo, date of the event, security features, and in certain circumstances, the vehicle registration.
Dis korrek.
That is correct, Your Worship.
Paragraph 5. I can confirm with certainty that the vehicle in which Mr. Malema arrived at the Memorial Park contained no identifying physical mark confirming that it had the right to enter the designated area.
Ek sien dit Eerlikwaarde.
I see it, Your Worship.
From that, do you understand that it didn't have a permit to enter the area?
Volgens hierdie paragraaf 5 ja.
According to this paragraph, yes, Your Worship.
Right. Then the second heading is the second question. Did Mr. Malema or the vehicle have any credentials? Paragraph 6. Personal accreditation refers to a system to positively identify a person or identify that the holder of the accreditation may enter a designated area. The accreditation typically takes the form of a permit that is suspended around the guest's neck that displays the event's name, date, and guest category. Additional features may include a photo of the accredited person or a security control number. You agree with that?
Stem meneer saam met daai?
Foto-akkreditasie Eerlikwaarde verseker wanneer ons met staatshoofde doen.
Met staats?
Staatshoofde, heads of state.
That the photos, Your Worship, is only when we have to deal with head of states.
Paragraph 7. Mr. Malema and the remaining passengers in the car indeed carried personal accreditation cards, but the vehicle did not have any indication confirming vehicle accreditation.
Ek sien dit Eerlikwaarde.
I see it, Your Worship.
So you understand from that this man, the Colonel Fenter, actually looked and saw the lanyards with personal identification or accreditation for them, but looked in the vehicle and saw no permit for the vehicle. Would you understand that as well?
So, sal meneer dit so verstaan?
Van sy beskrywing ja Eerlikwaarde.
Yes, and his description, Your Worship?
I read it the same way. So. Now, there's then a heading. Who instructed me to not let Mr. Malema into the Memorial Park? Paragraph 8. Our instructions were conveyed to myself and Lieutenant Colonel Engelbrecht by the planning officer, Lieutenant Colonel Motaung, on 13 April 2018, the day before the event.
Ek sien dit Eerlikwaarde.
I see it, Your Worship.
Paragraph 9. My instruction was to do protection planning at the Memorial Park, that on the day of the event, only the escorted convoy of immediate family, the President, the Deputy President, and Cabinet Ministers and Heads of State should be allowed to enter the Memorial Park in their vehicles.
Ek sien dit Eerlikwaarde.
I see it, Your Worship.
10. All vehicles not forming part of the escorted convoy of family members, the Presidency and Heads of State had to be parked in a designated area from where guests were allowed to proceed to the VIP marquee tent.
Ek sien dit Eerlikwaarde.
I see it, Your Worship.
Then he says, Mr. Malema and his car did not form part of the escorted convoy of immediate family members, the Presidency and Heads of State. Mr. Malema therefore did not form part of the very specific group of guests who would be allowed to enter the premises by car.
Ek sien dit Eerlikwaarde.
I see it, Your Worship.
And then 12, I merely conveyed to the driver of Mr. Malema's car the standard procedure for the event regarding the parking of the vehicle. Right. Now you remained in the VOC during the time when the vehicles arrived. Do you agree with me?
Meneer was
Ek Eerlikwaarde.
daar by die VOC toe die voertuie aangekom het.
Did you have sight of them arriving?
Het meneer gesien toe die voertuie daar aankom?
Eerlikwaarde, die enigste visuals wat ons gehad het was basies die TV wat ons gehad het in die venue operational center.
Your Worship, the only visuals that we had was the TV that we had in the operational center.
And what station were you watching?
ENCA.
ENCA, Your Worship.
And I want to put you, if you're watching ENSA, you saw the cavalcade of all the cars coming across from the stadium to the cemetery. Is that correct?
Dis
Was it-
correct, Julle Afvaarder.
That is correct, Your Worship.
And I want to put to you, and you'll see it even on the video if you watch it, that not all of the cars were fancy BMWs and Mercedeses. There were other cars that come in as well.
Ek het dit gesien op die video materiaal, ja, Julle Afvaarder.
Your Worship, I saw it on the video material, yes.
And you would also see that when they arrived in Memorial Lane, before they went into Memorial Park, the escorts stopped to the side and the dignitaries then proceeded forward.
Meneer sal sien as toe hulle by Memorial Lane kom, het die escorts een kant gestaan, toe gaan die dignitaries voor.
Dit is standaard prosedure, veral wanneer ons 'n beperkte spasie het, Julle Afvaarder, dat die begeleidingsvoertuie wegbreek van die konvooi af, maar hulle breek net weg daar waar die rooi sode begin.
Your Worship, it is a standard procedure that when we have a limited space, that when we get there, the what meneer sê die the escorts will move away and the other convoy will go in, Your Worship.
But that's at, he said, but that's at the beginning of the red zone.
Dis
Maar die, aan die begin van die rooi zone.
Right. And that's what happened here if you saw the video.
Dit is wat gebeur het as meneer die video gesien het.
Julle Afvaarder, ek het nie dit gesien nie. So ek kan nie eintlik daar kommentaar oor.
I can't comment on that, Your Worship, because I
It-
didn't
it's
see
not,
that.
well, let me go, I meant the video of the program that watched the convoy coming. But if you watched that TV program, you would have seen that there were white vehicles from the burial company. I think it was Avbob that accompanied them all the way and then stopped outside in like forming almost like an arch on both sides with the vehicles then passing through to the cemetery. Did
As
you see
meneer
that?
gekyk het, dan sou meneer gesien het die voertuie wat voor was wit voertuie. Dit was van die begrafhuis afbop. Hulle het gekom te maak, hulle kyk toe beweeg die ander voertuie in tussen hulle in.
Julle Afvaarder, ek het dit nie gesien nie.
I didn't see it, Your Worship.
Okay, now where does the hearse fit into the convoy?
Julle Afvaarder, die lijkwaar is veronderstel om heel laaste aan te kom by die steriele area.
Your Worship, the hearse is supposed to come at last
So
at the sterile area.
so ek weet ek het die lijkwaar voorgesien in die beweging van die konvooi.
I know that I saw the hearse in front in the moving of the convoy.
So op 'n stadium moes hy kant toe beweeg het om die res van die voertuie kans te gee om verby te kom.
There was a stage where it had to move to the side to give the convoy a chance to move.
No, but that's what I want to put you. Here, the hearse wasn't right at the back. It was already in. If you look at if you've watched the video, the hearse was already inside the cemetery and moved to the side, and then cars continued to come.
Dis korrek. Nee, ek het dit ook so waar kan jy
That's also what I saw, Your Worship.
So that's not your normal protocol, because here the hearse was in front, not right at the back. It's clear from the
Die
video.
lijkbaar was voor hierso.
Dis korrek, Julle Afvaarder.
It is correct, Your Worship.
So we can't even say, as you would ordinarily say, well, there was a convoy, the last vehicle in the convoy is the hearse, so that would show that's the end of the convoy. Here you saw it was different.
Jy het meneer gesien dat dit verskillend was.
Dis korrek, Julle Afvaarder.
It is correct, Your Worship.
Because there can be no doubt. You see it on the video, the hearse is there. You still see vehicles coming through. You see the hearse then reverse across the entrance and the coffin's taken out and put onto a trolley. Do you agree with me?
Het meneer dat gesien?
Ek het dit op die video materiaal gesien.
I saw it on the video material, Your Worship.
Now, you've deposed to two statements in relation to this matter. Do you agree with me?
Sê meneer saam met meneer Kleur verklaring gemaak het?
Ek het
Yes.
I'm going to take you through your two statements. I have copies for my learned friend and for the witness, and if the original could be handed to Your Worship. The first one is A8 in the docket, Your Worship.
Inspector? Dis wat de copies? De copy to the court and the original to the
Afskrif is die
witness?
oorspronklike. Gebruik die oorspronklike manier.
Okay.
Your first statement, marked A8, gives your surname, your full names, your home address, your personal details, your age and your identity number. Do you agree with me?
Sê meneer Sam?
Dis korrek,
Dus
Julle
die
Afgevaardigde.
persoonlijke besonderhede.
You then say, I state that the contents of the statement is true to the best of knowledge and belief. The statement has been made with the knowledge that if it was tendered in a court, I could be liable for prosecution if I have willfully stated in something which I do not believe to be true. Do you agree?
It is correct, Your Worship.
I'm a police official stationed at Mapa Naga Incident Management Section with service number, and you give your number, and with the rank of colonel. Is that correct?
Is it correct?
Julle Afgevaardigde.
That is correct, Your Worship.
Next paragraph. During the state funeral of Mama Madikizela Mandela on the 14th of April 2018, I was working together with Colonel Smith in the VOC established at the Santon Fours Memorial Park. Our duties was to ensure radio communication for the protection services environment, monitor and manage incidents. You agree with that?
Stem meneer Sam,
Dis
né?
korrek, Julle Afgevaardigde.
That is
Is
correct,
any-
Your Worship.
One issue, you called it a state funeral, but that's where my learned friend probably got it from, but we've agreed it was an official funeral.
Dis korrek, Julle Afgevaardigde.
That is correct, Your Worship.
Nothing turns on that, I want to say. And then you say in the next paragraph, just after 1615, while talking to the Divisional Commissioner of Protection and Security Services, Lieutenant General S. Shitlabane, we received information on an incident that occurred at the main entrance of Fourways Memorial Park between Lieutenant Colonel Fenter from Presidential Protection Services and Mr. Malema. It was alleged that Mr. Malema and his entourage entered the main gate with their unsecured vehicle, a black Mercedes Vito van. Is that correct?
Dis korrek, Julle Afgevaardigde.
It is correct, Your Worship.
You then say it was also established that there was an altercation between Mr. Malema, Lieutenant Colonel Fenton, and other members of the security detail. Major General Zulu was at the scene when the incident occurred. Confirm?
Dis korrek.
That is correct, Your Worship.
Lieutenant Colonel Fenton was indicating that he was going to Douglasdale SAPS to open a criminal case. He reported the incident to the VOC as per OB 64 at 17:15.
Dis korrek, Julle Afgevaardigde.
That is correct, Your Worship.
Around 1800 hours, Colonel Smith and I approached the operations manager, Mr. Dion Klingbiel, to request about the video footage of the incident as this was part of our duties. Mr. Klingbiel provided us with a copy of the incident which we used in our report to the Divisional Commissioner and Major General Nkobo, the head of VIP Protection Services. According to the video footage, the incident occurred around 15:49 and lasted for about 90 seconds.
Dis korrek, Julle Afgevaardigde.
That is correct, Your Worship.
I was approached by Colonel Nama, the investigation officer at Douglasdale SAPS, about the footage. I informed him about Mr. Klingbiel and that he can obtain the footage directly from the source. He requested I give him a copy, of which I did.
Dis korrek, Julle
This is
That
all
is
I can
correct, Your
declare
Worship.
for now. You then say, I don't understand the contents of the statement. I have no objection in taking the prescribed oath. I consider the oath to be binding on my conscience. And you then sign that statement with the Commissioner of Oaths on the 6th of March 2019, but the Commissioner made it the 6th of February, you'll notice. That this is
Anna?
your statement, you agree.
Dis korrek, Julle Afgevaardigde.
That is correct, Your Worship.
Now, if one reads this statement and you're involved in the planning, then one infers, and I'm going to give you the opportunity to deal with this, which vehicles should be allowed into the cemetery. You didn't know which vehicles were allowed in. Do you agree with me?
Sê meneer Sam, dat meneer het nie geweet het watter voertuie moes toegelaat word nie.
Daai
Yes, I do.
verantwoordelikheid, Julle Afgevaardigde, sou gelê het by die persoon wat aangestel was by die betrokke toegangspunt wat in hierdie geval uitnaam was.
Your Worship, that responsibility will lie with the person that was given permission to be at the entrance. And in this case, it was Lieutenant Colonel Fenter.
No. Colonel Fenton never had a list of vehicles that were allowed in. That we've established.
Hy het nie 'n lys gehad nie. Dit
Ek
word
dink nie
genoem.
eens of hy 'n lys gehad het nie. Ek het nie 'n lys gehad nie.
I don't have any knowledge if he had a list. I did not have a list.
Let's go 2 steps back. You don't even know if a list ever existed.
Dis korrek.
That is correct, Your Worship.
So if there was no list of who had been accredited, then one cannot, with respect, say that this vehicle wasn't accredited to go into the cemetery. Do you have any comment?
Het meneer enige comment?
Meneer Afbare, soos ek getuig het vroeër, as jy toegang tot die steriele area moes gehad het, moes jy deel van die konvooi gewees het wat vertrek het vanaf Orlando Stadium tot en met Convoy Memorial Park. As jy
Your
deel
worship-
was van daai konvooi, het jy toestemming gehad om in te gaan.
As I testified before, Your Worship, if you had been part of been in the sterile area, and you were part of the convoy that left, you had to be part of the convoy that left Orlando Stadium, that went to Memorial Park, then you would have been given permission to enter the cemetery.
It's a matter of fact, and we'll do with Wata. You don't mention the word convoy in your statement.
Dis korrek.
Meneer, noem nie die woord convoy in die verklaring nie. That is correct, Your Worship.
Now I want to ask you, if the vehicle's accredited and it's part of the convoy, do you agree with me that your pointsman, Lieutenant Colonel, the complainant in this matter, and I'll give you his name, Venter, had no authority to stop the vehicle?
Is the meneer
You're in
saam?
the convoy, you're part of the convoy, you've got a permit in your car. He had no authority to stop such a car.
As dit die kondisies was, meneer Afbare, dan stem ek saam.
If that was the conditions, then I agree.
Because such a vehicle would have been authorized and couldn't be stopped by him. Do you agree with me?
Is the meneer saam?
Dis korrek.
That is correct, Your Worship.
Now, according to Colonel Venter, when this happened, he tried to get hold of VOC. When
Well-
did he actually get hold of you in VOC?
Kolonel Venter sê dat hy probeer het om toegang te kry tot VOC
Nou, contact te maak.
te kontak.
Ja.
Wanneer het hy van meneer in die hande gekry?
Meneer Afbare, die eerste tyd wat ek met Luitenant-Kolonel Venter gepraat het, was rondom 17:15 gewees.
17:15. Your Worship, the
That-
first time that I spoke to Lieutenant Colonel Venter, it was around 17:15.
And that's when it was reported as per OB 64 in the VOC incident book. Is that right?
Is it-
Dis korrek, meneer Afbare.
It
Verstaan,
is-
sorry.
This is correct, Your Worship.
Dit is die tyd wat hy in die venue operational sentrum was, waar hy dan sy rapport gemaak het.
That is the time when he was in the venue operational center when he was making his report.
So we've now watched the video footage. We have the time when the incident took place. So it was just, it was before 4 o'clock. You agree with me?
Stem meneer saam met ons het die video gekyk. Die voorval het net voor 4 uur gebeur.
Ek dra kennis, ek is nie 100% seker van die tyd nie, maar dit was voor 4.
I do have knowledge. I'm not quite sure about the time, but it was before 4.
I'll give you the time on the video. Sorry. No, I'm not. It's not a test of your.
15:48, 15:49.
The video start from 15:44,
Dit begin 15:44.
and even the longest video that runs for 10 minutes doesn't get to 4 o'clock. Okay, so the incident took place at let's use round terms, approximately 3:45. The first time you heard about it was an hour and a half later at that's at 5:15. Is that
Die
correct?
voorval het omtrent kwart voor 4 gebeur, né? Meneer het kwart
Oor
oor 5 gehoor van die voorval.
Nee, Afbare, dit is nie korrek nie.
No, Your Worship, that's not correct.
Ek is rondom 4 uur, net na 4, deur die planning officer ingelig dat daar 'n voorval was. So daar was ek al reeds bewus gewees van die voorval.
Your Worship, just after 4, I was informed by the planning officer that there was an incident. I was aware already that there was an incident.
En dat generaal Zulu op die toneel is en dat sy die insident hanteer.
And that General Zulu is on the scene and she's handling the situation.
So die eerste keer wat ek dan vir Luitenant-Kolonel Venter fisies gesien het, was 17:15 toe hy by die wok afgedaag het om die rapport te maak in die voorvalle.
The first time that I saw Lieutenant Colonel Fender was about 5:15 when he walked into the wok to come and made the report, Your Worship.
On your statement, the first you heard of it was just after 16:15. You'll see on the first page, the last paragraph.
Dis korrek, Julle.
That is
That's
correct,
when
Your
you
Worship.
heard about it, and then he came in to report it in the OB book and make an entry at 17:15. Is that correct?
Is that correct? That is correct, Your Worship.
You confirm this is your statement and you have no objection to deposing to that statement and did so freely and voluntarily of your own accord. Is that correct?
Is dit correct, meneer?
Dis korrek, Your Honor.
Worship, I ask that this would be, I think we're on H1. There's two statements by this.
Baba, no objection?
Thank you, Your Worship. It is H1, I have no objection.
Thank you then. It will then be marked as Exhibit H. I think at this stage, before the court will lose sight of all the evidence which was submitted, the court just wants to formally rule on the following exhibits, which is in Exhibit G1, 2, and 3, as well as Exhibit H. The court will rule that the said exhibits is admissible as evidence before the court, and it is being received by court by consent of the parties. Thank you, Mr. Otis. You may proceed.
Thank you, Worship. The next statement that you deposed to, Colonel, is A27 in the docket. I will hand you a copy to identify and to my learned friends.
Copy.
Okay, so you then have the same headings. You'll see there's no need to repeat it. And the first two opening paragraphs are also the same. And then you start the statement in the third paragraph. So this statement is additional to my previous statement. Do you agree with me?
Is the meneer saam?
Dis korrek, Your Honor.
And you
That's
say,
correct, Your Worship.
again, during the state funeral of Mama Madikizela Mandela on the 14th of April 2018, I was working together with Colonel Smith in the VOC established at the Santon Forest Memorial Park. Our duties was to ensure radio communication for the Protection Services environment, monitor and manage incidents. Correct.
Korrek, Your Honor.
That is correct, Your Worship.
Around 1800 hours, Colonel Smith and I approached the operations manager, Mr. Dion Klingbeil, to request about the video footage of the incident as this was part of our duties. We viewed the footage of the incident as captured by the CCTV camera system, whereafter I requested a copy from Mr. Dion Klingbeil. He copied the information to a memory stick which we used for internal purposes to compile reports to our superiors. I also advised Colonel Nama, as per my previous statement, to acquire the CCTV footage from the source of information, Mr. Dion Klingbeil. The information on the memory stick was used for internal purposes. You confirm that?
That is correct, Your Worship.
That essentially confirmed your previous statement. Do you agree with me?
Dis korrek, Your Honor.
It's correct, Your Worship.
You then add the following, Colonel. The terminology unsecured vehicle in security terms refers to a vehicle not screened or checked by security personnel. You confirm that?
Dis korrek, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Worship.
This could mean that we, SAPS, did not perform a canine and explosive sweep on the vehicle.
Dis korrek, Your Honor.
That is correct, Your Worship.
All vehicles entering the Santon Forest Memorial Park were supposed to be secured in order to maintain the security levels, seeing that a number of VIPs attended the service.
Dis korrek, Your Honor.
That is correct, Your Worship.
I am not sure whether Mr. Malema's vehicle was secured through undergoing the screening exercises.
Sien meneer, hè?
100% korrek, Your Honor.
That is 100% correct, Your Worship.
Now, I commend your honesty here, sir. But why has nobody ever made that inquiry to establish as a fact whether that vehicle was secured or not?
Your Honor, om spesifiek hierdie uit te sorteer, sou die maklikste gewees het om net met die beplanningsoffisier te gepraat het en 'n verklaring te gekry van die beplanningsoffisier.
Your Worship,
Uit te konstateer.
to make this easier, it would have been easier if it was information was gotten from the planning officer, Your Worship,
Hierdie
to sort this out with him.
Ekskuus. Hierdie was die werk van die ondersoekbeampte om te doen.
This was the work of the investigating officer to do, Your Worship.
Sorry, Colonel, I'm going to let you off so easily. You had an internal inquiry into this matter. Do you agree with me?
Dis korrek, Your Honor.
That is correct, Your Worship.
Part of that internal inquiry was to look at the conduct of your colleague, Colonel Fenter. Do you agree with me?
Stem meneer saam?
Dis korrek, Your Honor.
That's
How
correct, Your
could any
Worship.
such process be complete without ascertaining whether in fact the vehicle was authorized to enter or not?
Your Honor, soos ek voorheen verduidelik het, die konvooi hou op waar die laaste polisievoertuie of die laaste metropolisievoertuie inlig. Op die video sien ons waar die konvooi ophou. Die
Worship.
volgende kar agter die konvooi is meneer Malema se kar en daarom kan 'n mens sê dat die principle nie gevolg is nie.
Your Worship, as I explained previously or before, that the convoy ends where the last police vehicle is. But when we see the video, Your Worship, Mr. Malema's vehicle is behind the police vehicles.
You're wrong on that, but you haven't answered my question. I'm going to repeat it because I'm not going to let you avoid this one. How could your internal disciplinary inquiry have been completed without ever establishing whether Mr. Malema's vehicle was secured through undergoing the screening exercises or not?
Nee, dis julle afwaar sal saamstem, dis miskien 'n ander side van my kant af en ek sal die verantwoordelikheid daarvoor hê.
Your Worship, I would agree it was an oversight from my side. I would take the responsibility for that.
It's not only you. I'm not going to even just blame you solely for that. If you read this whole docket, you'll never answer that question. So it's you, every other person, including Colonel Fent himself, never bothered to ascertain whether this vehicle had ever been through these screening exercises or not. It's strange. Do you agree with me?
Dis korrek.
That is correct, Your Worship.
And I'm going to challenge you. So if you watched the video, after the EFF vehicle went through, there was another police vehicle, even cars behind that stopped there. Do you agree with me?
Julle afwaar, dis moontlik dat dit kan wees wanneer die voertuie, soos ek verduidelik het, wanneer die voertuie onder ons beheer is, met ander VIP Protection Services, het hulle nie escort nodig om 'n steriele area in te gaan. As hulle deur die screening proses gegaan het en hulle het VIP Protection Officers as hulle bestuurders, het hulle toegang tot die steriele area.
Your Worship, that is possible when they've been screened and they have VIP security as their drivers, then they allowed into the sterile area, Your Worship.
But Colonel, you can't tell me that every car that went in there was driven by a VIP protection officer.
Ek sal nie kennis dra daarvan nie. Dit is Colonel Venter wat op die toneel was self wat daai besluit moes geneem het.
Your Worship, I wouldn't have knowledge about that. Is Colonel Fenter that was on the scene or on the premises that have,
He couldn't identify all the, out of fairness, he couldn't identify all the cars as having been driven by VIP protection officers.
Okay. Ek kan nie daarop enige kommentaar gee.
I can't comment on that, Your Worship.
Your statement continues, additional security measures to enter the sterile area could include having an accreditation card, identifying the holder of the card, and explaining the access privileges. You see that?
Sien meneer, right?
Ek sien dit hier afwaar.
I see it, Your Worship.
So that's an accreditation card for a human being, for a person, not a vehicle. Do you agree?
That's correct, hier afwaar.
That is correct, Your Worship.
And you say this is an additional measure to ensure only relevant people access the venue.
Dis korrek, hier afwaar.
That is correct, Your Worship.
And you say this is all I can declare for now. You then take the same oath and it's signed and dated by the Commissioner as 7 October 2019. Do you agree
Er
with
was
that?
meneer die eed geneem en de commissaris het het toegeteken en dat was 7 Oktober 2019. Yes, Your Worship.
Bishop, may I ask that that be accepted as H2?
Thank you. Just for record purpose, I believe the court have indicated it's H, but it shouldn't be H1. And the last one is H2 if the state have no objection with regards.
That's correct, Your Worship. The state has no objection.
With regards to Exhibit H2, the court have will also rule that it is admissible as evidence before the court and that it has been received by the court by consent of the parties.
Thank you. Now, when you went to Mr. Dion Klingbeil to secure the video footage, did you tell him, I need this only for internal purposes, it's not official, I'm not going to use it in the docket? What did you explain to him?
Wat het meneer verduidelik toe meneer die videomateriaal gaan soek?
Hier afwaar, dit is soos ek voorheen getuienis gelewer het. Dit was nie vir die ondersoek in die kriminele saak nie, dit was vir ons interne prosedure.
Your Worship, it was as I testified before, it was not for the investigation in the criminal case, it was for internal investigation.
And you told him, as he's told us and as of you, that He will be approached in due course by the police for a copy to be put into a docket, because you envisaged at that stage that the docket would be opened. Is that correct?
En meneer het hom gesê dat die polisie hom gaan nader in 'n latere stadium vir 'n afskrif. En meneer het al reeds weet dat daar 'n dossier gaan geopen word.
In elk geval is korrek, Kolonel Venter het my meegedeel dat hy Douglasdale Polisiestasie toe gaan om 'n kriminele saak op te neem.
That is correct, Your Worship. Colonel Venter informed me that he's going to Douglasdale Police Station to go and open a criminal case.
Now, when you were there with Dion Klingbeil watching the videos, did he show you how many cameras there were? Or had he already found the relevant part of the video for you?
Toe meneer Ramet, meneer Klingbeil was, het hy gewys hoeveel kameras daar is, of het hy al reeds toe meneer daar opdag, het die spesifieke part gekry wat meneer kry op neersoek.
Ja, waarom meneer Klingbeil het vir my gesê hy het 2 kameras by die hoofhek, waarvan die een kamera se footage nie goed is nie, en hy het vir my gesê die ander kamera wys die insident vir my.
Your Worship, Mr. Klingbeil informed me that he has 2 cameras at the entrance, and he also informed me that the footage of the one camera is not so good, but the footage of the other camera is depicts the incident.
Dis waarom ek hom gevra het vir daai spesifieke footage.
That is why I asked him for that specific footage, Your Worship.
So did he show you both sets, or did he just explain it to you?
Het hy vir meneer albei stelle gewys, of het hy dit net verduidelik?
Hy het my net verduidelik.
He just explained it to me, Your Worship.
So you only viewed that which you were shown by my learned friend today, which is referred to as the gate camera, is that correct?
Meneer het net dit gesien wat vandag gewys wat gewys na die hekkamera.
Dis korrek, Elafar, is die enigste beeldmateriaal wat ek gehad het.
Yes, that's correct, Your Worship. That is the only video material that I have, or that I have seen.
And it's not as if he said to you, well, there are all these other different views, you can have a look and see which one you want. He said to you, this is the only clear recording of the incident, and you accepted that, is that correct?
Dis korrek, Elafar.
That is correct, Your Worship.
Were you ever aware of other videos from other cameras that were made relating to this case?
Was meneer bewus van enige beeldmateriaal van enige ander kameras?
Elafar, die enigste tyd wat ek bewus geraak het van enige ander materiaal was gister in ons konsultasie meeting met meneer Baba.
Your Worship, the only time that I was aware of any other video material was yesterday when I was consulting with Mr. Baba.
But you had never seen that before?
Meneer het dit nooit voorheen gesien nie.
Nooit nie.
Never?
And were you shown the photo album of the photos of the cars that were there?
Was meneer die fotoalbum gewys van die voertuie wat daar was?
Ek het een foto of daar was 2 foto's gesien wat mevrou Hart vir my gewys het.
Ms. Hart showed me 2 photos, Your Worship.
What were they of?
Van wat was die foto's van?
Die een wat ek kon onthou was die swart Mercedes Benz, die Vito.
The one that I can remember is the black Mercedes-Benz Vito.
Ek is nie 100% seker die ander een nie.
I'm not 100% sure of the other one.
Were you shown, Worship, I'm handing to the witness, Exhibit 4-6.
Copy can be given to the court, but it's fine. No copies. I think it is. I have a set of copies. Exhibit 4-6.
6, Worship.
Inspector, you may approach.
You may approach. Ik zie meneer skud die kop. Meneer sê ja, en weet nie wat
Is
stem.
this what you had seen?
Is dit wat meneer gesien het?
Dis korrek.
It is correct what I saw.
And you'll see there the top picture on 4-6 refers to 04-14-2018, 15-49, I think it's 48, and it says gate camera on the bottom right-hand corner. Do you agree with me?
Stem meneer saam sien meneer? That is correct, Your Worship.
That's part of the video that you had seen. You agree
Dis
with
deel van die video wat meneer beeldmateriaal wat meneer gesien het.
Dis korrek.
That is correct, Your Worship.
me? The one beneath that on the same page
Hier onder, op
says
dieselfde bladsy.
04-14-2018 set, and it says 15, I think it's 4705, and then it's where the other one says gate camera, this one says Memorial Road. Do you agree with me?
Stem meneer saam.
Ek sien dit hier.
I see it, Your Worship.
And in that picture you can see the EFF, well in both pictures you see the vehicle that we both referred to as the EFF vehicle. Do you agree with me?
Op albei foto's sien meneer die voertuig wat ons noem die EFF se voertuig.
Dis korrek, Julle Afgevaardigde.
That is correct, Your Worship.
And in the bottom one there appears to be something on the dashboard facing the vehicle on the left hand side. Do you agree with me?
Sien meneer aan die linkerkant van die dashboard as iets wat daar is. Meneer sien?
Ek sien dit, Julle Afgevaardigde.
I see it, Your Worship.
You never saw that car on the day in question and you can't say what that is. Do you agree with me?
Meneer het nie die voertuig gesien daardie dag nie en meneer kan nie sê wat hy is nie.
Dis korrek, Julle Afgevaardigde.
That is correct, Your Worship.
Now, according to Colonel Fenton, I can give you all the references, there are several, I can assure you. He said, and he testified that he tried to get hold of the VOC whilst this incident was taking place. You didn't speak to him whilst this incident was taking place from the VOC to where he was. Do you agree with me?
Stem meneer saam.
Dis korrek, Julle Afgevaardigde.
Dis correct,
Ek
Your
sien
Worship.
hom gepraat nie.
I didn't speak to him.
Another thing that I omitted to mention to you, sir, is in both your statements, because you only did the first one, but in the second statement as well, you don't mention the word convoy. Do you agree with me?
Meneer noem nie die naam Convoy in albei verklaringe.
Dis korrek.
That is correct, Your Worship.
So you don't know whether he even tried to get hold of you at the time of the incident because you never engaged or spoke to one another whilst this incident was taking place. Do you
Meneer
agree
weet nie
with
of hy probeer het om vir meneer te kontak nie, want meneer het nie met hom gepraat nie.
Julle Afgevaardigde, soos ek getuig het vroeër, myself en Colonel Smit was buitekant die bok op daardie stadium gewees as ek na die tyd min of meer kyk. Ons was besig met luitenant-generaal Stabane in gesprek. So die radio-operateurs sou die boodskappe gekry het as daar boodskappe was. Nie een van daai radio-operateurs het my enigstens genader nie.
Your Worship, as I testified before, we were outside, me, was meneer in,
Colonel Smit.
and Colonel Smith, Colonel Smith, Your Worship, were outside the VOC officers chatting with Lieutenant Chavane. And if one of the radio operators got a message, they would have informed me. None of them informed me.
But let me be more specific. At no stage did you become aware of a request to VOC for permission to allow this vehicle in. Do you agree with me?
Stem meneer saam met meneer op geen stadium request gekry dat meneer die voertuig met toestemming gee om in te gaan nie.
Dis korrek, Julle Afgevaardigde.
That is correct, Your Worship.
All that happened, as I understand your testimony, is subsequent to the event. You were told that General Zulu was there and that she had sorted things out or taken control of the situation.
Na die voorvalle was meneer ingelig dat generaal Zulu daar was en sy sien toe na die incident.
Dis soos ek getuig het, Julle Afgevaardigde.
As I testified, Your Worship.
And you also, in your mind, accepted that she had the authority to do so, that is General Zulu. Do you agree?
Meneer het aanvaar in u geheue dat sy die autoriteit het om dit te doen.
Julle Afgevaardigde, ek kan nie namens die generaal praat en ek weet nie wat het al beweeg om daai besluit te maak nie, maar as sy daai besluit gemaak het, dan sal sy kom getuig daaroor glo.
Your Worship, I can't speak on behalf of the general, but if she took that decision, she can come and testify, say why she took that decision.
And my question was specific. I said, in your mind, you accepted that was the case. She
Dis
can
in meneer se
testify to
geheue
it.
dat sy daar was en sy het na die. That's correct, Your Worship.
Now, why did you give Colonel Fenter a copy of the video at that stage?
Op daardie stadium, hoekom het meneer afskrif van die beeldmateriaal vir kolonel Venter gegee?
Julle Afgevaardigde, soos ek getuig het, ek het vir my afskrif gegee van die videomateriaal, omdat daai die videomateriaal was nie geklassifiseerde informasie nie. Luitenant-generaal Venter was sentraal tot die incident. Die ondersoek was afgehandel geweest en hy het gevra hy wil dit vir sy regsmense gee.
Your Worship, as I testified before, Colonel Venter was privy to the incident. He was when the incident happened, and the information was not classified information. And
Yeah.
because the investigations were completed already, Your Worship, he then said to me he wants to give it to his legal team.
Who was his legal team?
Wie was sy prokureurs?
Ek het geen idee wie sy regspan was nie, maar hy het gevra wat is sy regspan.
I don't have any idea, Your Worship. He just asked that he wants to give to his legal team.
And did you inquire why his legal representatives or legal team needed this video?
Het meneer gevra hoekom sy regspan die beeldmateriaal nodig?
Nee, Julle Afvaarder.
No, Your Worship.
When did you give it to me?
Wanneer het meneer hom dit gegee?
Julle Afvaarder, ek het nie die presiese datum nie, maar dit was ongeveer, as ek sê, omtrent 'n week en 'n half na die insident plaasgevind het.
Your Worship, I don't have a specific date, but it was a week and a half after the incident happened. That's when he came to ask for me.
Is there any reason why you never mentioned giving a copy to me in either of your statements?
Is daar 'n rede waarom meneer dit nie genoem het in een van meneer se in enige van die verklaringe nie?
Julle Afvaarder, die rede hoekom dit nie daar in my verklaring is nie, daar is 'n spesifieke rede daarvoor nie.
There is no specific reason for that, Your Worship, that it's not in the statements.
Maar soos ek getuig het dat of ek kan nie onthou of ek daaroor getuig het nie, maar kolonel Nama het my twee goed gevra, het my gevra om 'n verklaring te gee hoe ek in besit gekom het van die videomateriaal en wat was my doel daarvoor. So my hoofdoel was vir departementele redes, as ek dit so kan stel. Dit was niks te doen met die kriminele gedeelte.
Your Worship, I don't think if I mentioned it, but Colonel Nama asked me two things. He asked me for a statement, and he asked me the reason why I'm in possession of the video material, and I then informed him it was for internal reasons, Your Worship. It was not for any criminal reasons, investigation reasons, Your Worship.
Your Worship, I want to try finish with this witness. I think I'm almost done.
It
So
is in order,
apologize if I've gone over a little bit.
As the court have indicated, the court is not going to rush either party.
Thank you,
so
Sir. I'll
you may
be done.
take your time. The court cannot dictate how many questions you still
Colonel,
have to
what
put.
I want to put to you is you've told this court that you, based on your many years years and years of experience in events planning, came to the conclusion that Lieutenant Colonel Venter acted 100% correctly.
Meneer sê, oh, it's
You
correct, Your
remember
Worship.
that?
Yes, I
want-
remember.
I want to put you so that's not possible for you to make that conclusion if you've never bothered to verify whether in truth and in fact this vehicle was authorized to be there or not.
Julle Afvaarder, ek kan ongelukkig nie saamstem met advokaat Hodes op dit nie.
Your Worship, unfortunately, I can't agree with advocate. What else about that?
Die verduideliking wat hy gegee het is gebaseer op die principle hoe dit werk in terme van 'n konvooi. So enige iets na die laaste konvooi voertuig ingekom het, sou dan gediem gewees het as dit is waarop ek dit gebaseer het.
Your Worship, it was based on principle, Your Worship, after the convoy went in, and any vehicle that came after the convoy. That's why I answered that.
But Colonel, on your own version and on the video, you don't see the tailing vehicle leaving until after this car has been through, the EFF car.
If you're talking about the two BMWs.
No, the tailing police vehicle. BMWs weren't escort cars, Colonel.
Okay.
There were police, metro, motorbikes, SAPS vehicles, marked vehicles that had blue lights and were shining on the side, and they leave afterwards.
Soos ek getuig het hier af, die escortvoertuie breek weg op 'n sekere stadium, veral as daar beperking is in terme van spasie.
Your Worship, as I testified before, that the escort, they break away, especially when there's limitation about space.
But the point, sir, is nobody can be 100% certain that Colonel Venter acted correctly if you don't know whether this vehicle was authorized to be there or not.
Okay. En afwaar as ek kan antwoord daarop, ek dink ek sou miskien dalk dieselfde gedoen het in daai posisie, omdat daar was twyfel gewees. As daar twyfel is oor 'n voertuig, die regte manier is om te stop en seker te maak. En die vermoë was daar om dit te kon uitklaar. Dit sou ons net een oproep gekos het om na die mynblok toe te skakel en seker te maak hierdie voertuig is deel van die konvooi.
Your Worship, I would answer it in this manner. There was doubt, Your Worship, and if there is doubt, I would also had acted in that manner, Your Worship. And the only thing that we had to do, had to phone the VOC, Your Worship, to
But-
make sure that this vehicle has permission to go in.
But that doubt still remains because nobody's answered that unequivocally by saying this vehicle was or wasn't authorized to be at the cemetery.
Maar nou zeg je dat die twijfel nog steeds daar is.
In elk geval, ek sal saamstem met advokaat Hodes op dit. Maar ons is ook geen geleentheid gegee om daardie voertuig te verifieer.
Your Worship, I would agree with the advocate, but we weren't given any permission, opportunity, Your Worship, to verify if that vehicle was given accreditation or not.
No, Colonel, this happened in April 2018. You've had nearly 3 years.
Ek verwys na die tyd toe dit gebeur het. So,
Your Worship, I'm referring to the time when this happened.
ja.
So may I approach the accused to see if there are any further questions?
You may do so.
Yeah, I've got just one aspect, Your Worship.
You are free to ask.
The purpose of vetting the COI is to secure the safety of the people in the event and the VIPs. Do you agree with me?
Not just the people in the event and the VIPs, those people also driving the vehicles.
100%. Even more reason. So if the car wasn't vetted and hadn't been security approved, what should happen when it drives through?
Julle afvalle, dit is 'n moeilike vraag om te antwoord,
It's a difficult question to answer, Your Worship,
omdat die magtiging gegee is volgens die getuienis wat hier was dat generaal Zulu gesê het hy moet ingaan. Maar
because of the testimony that was given, that accreditation was given by General Zhu, that the vehicle can go through.
maar onder normale omstandighede mag dit glad nie gebeur nie.
But under normal circumstances, it should not happen.
And you're not answering the question. We agree it shouldn't happen.
Yes.
Okay, if you're not authorized, you shouldn't get in. If you're authorized, you should get in. But the question is, if you are unauthorized and the police genuinely believe that they're entitled to keep you out, what should they do?
Well, they should not allow or give access.
No, we passed that. So that horse is bolted, sir.
Yeah.
The people have already driven in. The vehicle's inside. What's your protocol in that instance as we had here?
If you are referring as advocaat Hoornis verduidelik dat dit dan 'n aansekeerd of 'n voertuig was wat glad nie sekeerd was nie en hierdie voertuig wat onsekeer is in ons steriele area ingaan, dan is dit basies 'n sekuriteitsbreuk wat plaasgevind het.
It's a security break that is taking place, Your Worship, if this unsecured vehicle enters the sterile area.
So I'm going to ask for the third time there. And then what should happen, sir?
Wat moet gebeur?
Sal plaasgevind.
Die vraag is, kom ek verduidelik miskien, verstaan meneer?
Daar sou 'n verdere ondersoek dan moes gewees het.
There would be a further investigation, Your Worship.
Colonel, and you say let's just take extreme example. There's a bomb in the vehicle, it goes in, you have an investigation 3 weeks later.
Yeah.
Surely you have to, if you really believed that the vehicle shouldn't have gone in, you pursue it and remove it.
Julle afvalle, soos ek getuig het, dit is die prosedure wat advokaat Hoornis nou van praat, is die prosedure. Maar wanneer 'n senior bestuurder klaar gesê daai voertuig is gemagtig om in te gaan, wat maak ons dan?
Your Worship, that is correct. It's the procedure that the advocate just said. But if a senior says that vehicle goes in, then what do we do?
And the translation, I know it's been a long day. Your translation was, if a senior manager, bestuurder, says that the vehicle is authorized to go in, there's nothing you can do.
Ja.
Agreed. Is that a correct translation?
Dis korrek afvalle. Ek kan net sê dat as ek by die hek was en daar was so 'n tipe voorval, ek sê nie dit was die saak gewees nie, maar as ek die besluit geneem het dat 'n voertuig nie gemagtig is, dan sal daai voertuig nie ingaan.
Your Worship, I would just want to say that if it is the case, I was at the gate and the vehicle didn't have authorization, the vehicle wouldn't have gone in, Your
I
Worship.
agree with you. So can we then infer, once it was allowed in and left inside, that everything was left as it was?
Dis korrek.
That is correct, Your Worship.
Joseph, I apologize, man.
You may do so.
Lastly, sir, now that you've reached this point, I want to put to you that it was impossible to conclude that he was 100% correct because you never ever bothered to ask the renowned members of parliament and people that were involved in the incident what had transpired. It was closed up internally.
Ja, maar soos ek gesê het, dis miskien 'n oordeel van my kant en ek sal daai verantwoordelikheid vat, maar ek bedoel dit was ook die verantwoordelikheid van die persoon wat die insident gehanteer het.
Your
Dit so
Worship,
te rapporteer.
as I said before, it was an oversight on my side and I would take responsibility, but it also the responsibility of the person that handled the incident.
En daarom het ek gesê dat as generaal Zulu die geleentheid gegee word om te getuig, sal sy getuig oor hierdie goed seker.
That is why I said if General Zulu is given the opportunity to come and testify, he will testify about it.
Thank you, Colonel. Thank you, Worship.
Thank you, Advocate. Re-examination.
Thank you, Worship. I'm going to request a matter be rolled over to tomorrow. A lot was said, and I do want to clarify a lot of issues, Your Worship. So may I request that you adjourn the matter tomorrow for 9:30, Your Worship?
9:30.
9:30, Your Worship.
Mr. Oda?
Worship, it suits us. So I know that ordinarily we end at 3:30, but I am done, Worship. Thank you. If only the witness must know that I tried to finish today since the brother's been involved.
Duly noted, Your Worship. I'm here to do a job.
Thank you.
Can I give you a answer?
Sorry, the court is still sitting. Let us respect the court.
Thank you, Mr. Veronkis. You're still under oath. You are now not allowed to discuss your evidence with anyone. That will then also include not to have any further consultations. You understand? You are then excused until tomorrow. The court is also going to warn you to be present at 9:30 to continue with your evidence. If you however fail to be at court, court will also have to authorize the warrant for your arrest, Mr. Veronkis. You understand? You are then excused from the proceedings. Mr. Malema and Mr. Ndlozi, this case is now being postponed until the 10th of March 2021, court number 13 for further evidence. Both of you are on warning and want to appear at 8:30. If you fail to be at court or to remain in attendance until you are excused by the court, it will lead the court to issue a warrant for your arrest. You understand? You are then also excused from the proceedings. Thank you.
The court pleases, Your Worship. That concludes the roll for today.
Just one moment, Mr. Baba, before I'm excusing you. I just want to close up the court books as well as the charge sheet. Mr. Baba, the court is in possession of the charge sheet. I do not at this stage need the charge sheet, so I will be returning the charge sheet to either yourself or to the clerk of the court, but the court feels it is rather best in the possession of the state. The state must just sign for the charge sheet. Just sign for the charge sheet, and then I believe I'm also returning, is this the state's copy of the
That's
copies?
correct, Your Worship. I'm just requesting the exhibit file so I can update it for Your Worship.
The exhibits have already been placed onto the said file. The only thing which needs to be updated would be then the index. The court will, however, take possession of the transcript. Is there another transcript available? Can this be given to the court to start working on the set?
That can be given to the court, Your
Is
Worship.
there another one for the court record itself to be filed with the charge sheet?
We will attend to that, Your Worship.
Okay, this will then be a copy for the court, which will then become a personal copy for the court.
Duly noted, Your Worship.
Thank you. As I've indicated, the matter is for tomorrow. Court adjourned.
Can I take just, I'm taking this report, a picture for information. I don't want to keep it. Yeah, it's for you. Dia